Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Newscast, where I go over the top news of the last week in retro handhelds, retro gaming, and just gaming in general. First up, in software news, Nully, which is a fork of Batacera, is now available for the Anbernic RG28XX. If those words are confusing, it's basically a custom firmware, and it's available on the RG28XX for those that don't want the stock operating system. Now, Batacera is very much just kind of emulation station and then all of the other hooks into the emulators. So if you like that sort of operating system, then you'll be right at home with this. Great time to check it all out and give it a shot. It's on my list to get to at some point. Some more custom firmware here, and MUOS Beans, which is version 11 of MUOS, is now out complete, and I put up a video with a full setup guide and all of that for MUOS if you're interested, which is another custom firmware, and this one is available for the Anbernic RG35XXSP Plus and 2024 models. I have to say that after using it, it's currently my favorite custom firmware available for those devices. So if you're looking for something like it, check it out, check out my video, and see if it might be for you. Back to the Anbernic RG28XX, and stock firmware got an update twice. Once to 1.0.3 and another to 1.0.4. They added some things and changed some things, but the biggest change that I personally saw, and it wasn't in the change notes, was that they added and fixed Game Boy Advance scaling. So previously it was full screen, now it's that 3:2 aspect ratio, and they put a little overlay on the bottom that says Game Boy Advance. So they sort of kind of fixed it, but I still want to remove the overlay, and I did. If you're curious about how to update stock OS, I also did a video on that this week, so check that out. Emulation Station got a big update for Android as well as some other systems. But the big change for Android is that it apparently has native Android app support now for games and apps. Meaning, from what I understand, and I haven't done it yet, it should allow you to launch Android games and apps from the app, which was something that was completely missing before, and we had to use a workaround. So I'm very curious to see how this works, and if it works, and all of that. Again, haven't had a chance to try it out, but if it's on your radar, and I know a lot of people like Emulation Station, myself included, so check it out and see if it's worth it. Not to be outdone by Emulation Station, Beacon Launcher, which I did a video on a few weeks back, had an update this week as well. There's some quality of life additions and all of that, but I think the cool thing about this is you can now change your look of it to the PlayStation Vita bubbles. So if you ever had a Vita, had those bubbles that you could click on and launch all of your games and apps and all of that, you can have that same thing here with Beacon Launcher. So that's pretty cool. Check it out. Despite not having a single Apple device, I did say that I would let you know when there was big news for emulators on iOS, and RetroArch and PPSSPP are now available on iOS as emulators. Do I know anything more? Not at all. I don't have any Apple devices, can't test it, can't tell you anything else, but I can tell you that they're at least there, so enjoy. Last up on software news, remember the handheld picker website that I did a video on and I shared a few weeks back about where you can just compare all of the different devices, see pricing, see specs, and all of that on my website? Well, first up, there's a lot of you using it, so thank you for the support. And second, I did some updates there. So number one, you can now share what you filtered. So if you were filtering by, let's say, good for Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast, you can now send that list to others. So if they ever asked a question, what handheld should I buy for Nintendo 64? You can easily just share it, and there's a full list of handhelds there on that screen, as well as other systems and specs and all of that. You can share it all. Hope you all have been enjoying using it, and I plan to add a lot more. Jumping right into device news now, and this is the biggest news of the week, so we're going to spend the most time on it. In case you missed it, AYN is teasing a whole new device, and we ended up finding out that it is called the AYN Odin 2 Mini, and we got a lot more information over the week, so let's go from the start. Now, there was likely an update last night, either letting us know where it's going to be purchased and all that sort of thing. That didn't make it into today's video, so if you're curious about those updates, just check my Twitter. I usually post it all there. Okay, so from the beginning, the very first thing that they showed was a picture of this new handheld, and it said 320 grams, so the weight of the device, which is the weirdest tease ever, but that's what we got. But then we started getting updates every day, and the next update was that it was going to be using mini LED as the display panel. And I don't know much about mini LED, I'll be the first to admit it. Don't know of any handhelds using it for sure. So very curious to see what this ends up being when we actually see it. Then we got a full picture of the device, and it is very much PlayStation Vita inspired. Inspired is an easy word. It is very much a clone of the PlayStation Vita in a lot of ways. And that continued when we got the next picture, which was showing the back and the internals. And it looks like they're going to be using a screwless design, so no screws that show. But the back is very much a PlayStation Vita. The buttons are very much a PlayStation Vita. The entire thing is a Vita. Then we got the good stuff, the specs and pricing. So let's do the specs first. There's a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, 8GB RAM, 128GB model, which is the base. And then there's a 12GB RAM, 256GB storage model, which is the Pro model. 5-inch mini LED display, 1920 by 1080p, and it's a touchscreen. There's HDMI and DisplayPort, Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.3, USB 3.1 Type-C, micro HDMI, headphone jack, Android 13, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and there's active cooling. Price-wise, it's going to be $339 for the base 8GB model, and that's only black as a color option. And then it's $399 for the Pro model, which has a white option as well as the black. And we have a picture of what white looks like as well. Okay, so let's talk about this for a little bit. And I have my notes up here so I can refer back to them. First, compared to the Odin 2 base, this is $40 more expensive, but you're getting a free bag and screen protector. So, if you really wanted, let's just for comparison's sake, let's say the screen protector and bag are valued at $40 combined. That puts this device at basically the exact same cost as an Odin 2 base. Now, for a spec comparison, the Odin 2 base has an 8,000 milliamp hour battery. The Odin 2 Mini has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, so quite a bit less. Then the Odin 2 has a 6-inch IPS display. The Mini has a 5-inch mini LED display, which you're going to lose an inch, but are we going to gain a much better panel? Personally, I'm a big fan of the IPS display on the Odin 2. So it would have to be a really big upgrade for this to make sense as a comparison between screens, and I'm curious to see what it is. Lastly, it's a much smaller device as well as being 100 grams less. So going to be good for the people that think the Odin 2 is just too large. I think right off the bat, the pricing both does and doesn't make sense. In a vacuum, without the Odin 2 existing, the pricing would absolutely make sense because you would be getting a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 device for $339. And yeah, if the Odin 2 didn't exist, everybody would be signing up for that. Obviously, we all did for the Odin 2 already, so you know it would be a hit. But the Odin 2 exists, so we don't live in that world. I think a lot of the value just erodes away when the Odin 2 exists and you're pricing this higher than that, because the only value to this device over the Odin 2 is it being smaller. That's kind of the whole point. It's smaller in battery, it's smaller in footprint, it's smaller in weight, and all of that. And people are going to pay extra for a smaller footprint device. Look at the GPD Win 4, which I'm currently reviewing. It is $300 more than the competition, the ROG Ally and the Legion Go. But people buy it because it's a much smaller footprint and all of that. So people really want something like this. There is a segment of buyers that want this. And for an extra $30 or $40, it's a small price to pay for something smaller. I think the interesting thing to note here is that there's no competition from anybody else in this price point for AYN. So, I mean, you could point to the Pocket S, but obviously that's bigger. For those that want something maybe not Retroid Pocket 4 Pro sized, or maybe they want something a little bit bigger with a little bit more power, or I guess a lot more power, and all that sort of thing, this is a good option for them. Like, this isn't taking away anything from the Odin 2, which already exists, and if you want it, you can buy it. This is just another option. So personally, again, it goes back to the pricing both does and doesn't make sense to me, but it's not something to complain about because we still have another option that still exists and isn't replaced by this. I think what I was expecting and a lot of others was that this would be a $199, $249 device, smaller than the Odin 2, maybe the same IPS panel or a smaller IPS panel, and just a bit cheaper than the Odin 2. But doesn't seem like that's the route they want to go, and kind of just offering a second option for people that want it. I think this will live and die by how good the screen is, and I'll let you know as soon as I get mine in, because I have a review unit coming at some point. Next up, more of the Anbernic RG Cube has been leaking out, and I have to imagine this is completely on purpose by Anbernic to shut down any excitement that people have about the ZPG A1 unicorn. I love this little battle they have going on. But we've been getting photos and videos and all of that. We got some idea of what colors might look like. And remember, these are leaks or could be rumors, could be fake. We don't know. They look kind of real. But you could see that there's a bunch of different colors available. We saw some footage of somebody playing 3DS games on it and seeing what that looks like. Then there's some pictures that look like they're straight from Anbernic's website, and it just shows the purple button retro gray model of the RG Cube, and it has the RG405V styled fan on the back. Honestly, Anbernic just needs to slow down, and I know we keep making jokes on it, but it's so hard to keep up, especially when here comes the Anbernic RG35XXSP. We started getting videos from Anbernic on their YouTube showcasing this device, and we knew at that point that it was coming real quick, and then it started to come out. And now, as of this video, pre-orders went up in the morning at 3 a.m. Pacific. So by the time this video is up, you have the opportunity to go and buy it. I have a link in the description. Now, it's $6 off for the first 48 hours, and it's going to be $58.99 US dollars plus shipping for the first 48. I'm hoping it's not sold out by the time this video goes out, but I have no way of knowing. A lot of people are expecting that. Who knows? We'll find out. As is always the case with Anbernic review units, I am the last one to receive my review unit. So the person who develops all of the setup guides and all of that for it is going to be the last to get it, as usual. And yeah, I'm not salty at all that it's not coming yet. One really cool thing that I saw in their promotion videos that I haven't seen discussed is you can add stickers or cards to the top if you have a transparent one. So if that matters to you, you might want to grab a transparent model. I have plans for what I'm going to be adding to mine. Not to be outdone by Anbernic, we got more pictures of the ZPG A1 unicorn, as well as a box picture too. And there's a black model, there's a purple, and the white. And you can see the backs as well. Personally, I'm really interested to see how this all shakes out. I have to admit, a lot of the colors on the ZPG A1 unicorn look really nice, but they're going up against the giant in Anbernic here, so very curious to see what happens. Trim UI has a new black colored smart coming, and as far as I know, no differences to the internals of the Smart. It's just in black, and it looks really sleek, so I kind of want one. But for those of you that haven't bought a Smart yet, it's a really good device, maybe a little bit outdated at this point, but still great. And now it's in black. Probably my second favorite news of the week, which is weird because it's AYANEO, but they have the Pocket Micro and the DMG that they've been showing off on Twitter, and now we got to look at the back of the DMG to see what the shoulders look like. Real gamers know gamers, truly, we do. And gamers know the value of a 3:2 aspect ratio, which is apparently what the Pocket Micro has, and it's going to be released or shown, sorry, not released. It's going to be shown on May 18th, so tomorrow, and we should get some details on what the Pocket Micro maybe looks like and pricing, hopefully, I don't know, and the damage looks like as well. Did I say damage? DMG. Like, whatever, you know what I mean, the vertical. Now, personally, my money is that they're using the same screen as the one on the Flip DS. So that bottom screen there, because that's a 3:2 aspect ratio, and it's 960 by 640. So if I had to put a guess, I'm guessing that's what they're using on this Pocket Micro. For anybody counting, that would be 4 times scaling for Game Boy Advance. But we'll see tomorrow what they announce. If my videos have been helping you, consider supporting me on Patreon or just give this video a like and a sub. Also, we have a Discord up and running now, and there's been a lot of cool things happening there, so come join us. First up in game news, and this comes from longtime commenter Matt Davis, who let me know that Minecraft has a 15th anniversary currently happening, and there's some cool things that they have with it. First, you get some cool character items and all of that for logging in within the 15 days, but there's other items and free things that you get. But second, it is currently about $2 on sale on Android and iOS, which is kind of a deal for Minecraft. So if you haven't played Minecraft and you want to, jump into it. It's $2 on iOS and Android. Then we have a new Assassin's Creed coming, and it's called Assassin's Creed Shadows. And we got a cinematic video, which is my favorite way to show off a game, a cinematic. But it actually looks pretty cool from a graphics perspective. Obviously, there's no gameplay. We don't know what all of that looks like, but at the very least, the cinematic looks good. The release date is November 15th, and it's set in Japan, and apparently you play as a shinobi assassin as well as a samurai, so you get two different characters with intertwining stories. Microsoft is back in the news again this week, but for better news this time, they're going to be opening a mobile store. And remember how Epic is doing the same thing? Well, Microsoft is doing it as well, and it looks like their first-party catalog for mobile games will be the first on it with Candy Crush Saga, as well as Minecraft. Again, I wonder if this mobile ecosystem is going to be the same as PC at some point, where we start getting a whole bunch of different stores and launchers and all of that. And I wonder if we're going to develop a cult like we have on PC, where I only buy my games on the Google Play Store, nowhere else. That'd be pretty funny. Square Enix, I say Square Enix, we're going to go with that, is going to be aggressively pursuing multi-platform for their games going forward, which absolutely makes sense because they've been mostly doing exclusives for a lot of their games recently. Apparently, exclusivity just didn't pay enough, and that kind of makes sense because unless Sony is giving you the biggest check in the world, you're obviously going to get a lot more sales if you spread your game to different platforms. So looks like that's the plan going forward, and part of a larger strategy from Square Enix. There's a lot more to it, but that was kind of the standout news that I saw. If you've been wanting to play Red Dead Redemption 1 and you haven't been able to yet, well, it's apparently coming to PC through rumors pretty soon. I fully expect to be charged full price for this game while being a lower resolution and a lower frame rate than it originally was, because it's Rockstar, and they aren't known for doing very good remakes. Just a quick notice of a sale, there's a Monster Hunter Humble Bundle right now, where you get Monster Hunter Rise and World, and then you get a bunch of DLC. So if you're interested or you haven't bought Monster Hunter yet, check it out, it's on the Humble Bundle. Last of our news for today is a fun one. Marvel Rivals had a contract for reviewers that basically stated that they couldn't say anything negative without fear of repercussions. Basically, they would come after them if they did, because it's in the contract. So if you wanted a key code for Marvel Rivals, you were basically signing away your right to say anything bad about the game, which is kind of gross and disgusting. The developers came out afterwards and basically said it was a miscommunication, because somehow that's a miscommunication. No, the real answer is we got caught and we're sorry about it. Now, this is interesting because you have to wonder how many of these types of contracts go out and exist and are enforced, and we just don't hear about it, or we don't know about it, and all that sort of thing. So good on the guy, and I have it linked here, and I forget his name, but I'm going to link to the tweet. Good on him for reporting this and sharing it publicly. And good on the public for the backlash for this, because yeah, this is gross. Like, that's not supposed to happen at all. And it kind of puts me away from this game as if I wasn't already put away from this game. I would have never remembered this game if this didn't come out. So I guess good for them for the free marketing as well. By the way, did I miss a newscast topic that you want to hear discussed? Top comment with the words newscast topic will be discussed on next week's show. That's all from me, Atlanta.